So good evening friends. Welcome to FCCR day 7. So we are moving with the topic now. So the question, first of all we'll discuss the solution of the yesterday's question and then we will move to the new question of day. So first of all I concentrate on the solution. The first question was that of laws of motion. In fact it was an ellipsoid on which a chain was placed and the minor axis of the ellipsoid was A and the major semi-minor axis was A and the major axis was 2A. Semi-major axis was 2A. So this was the diagram that was given to us, and then we had a pulley and the pulley was joining a string and the string was hanging a block. Say I named it as B, and the system was under equilibrium, and what was asked to us was in what range the value of B may lie. So let us first think what is the possibility of the situation. So if we consider this to be uniformly rough, this is uniformly rough with coefficient of friction mu, and the mass per unit length is given to us the lambda. So important point is what are the other forces that are acting on the chain apart from the tension that is acting. So the tension is acting like this, and obviously this tension is acting here, and this tension is equal to weight of this mass. So let the mass be m. So I can say tension is equal to mg. So I have to find the limit in which m can lie. So that is the question. Okay. So you see here it is a rough surface. So let me think about what is the net frictional force and what is the impact of mg on it. So if you consider the impact of mg on it, it is very interesting that on whatever type of surface a chain is lying, in fact impact of mg is only due to the vertical component of the length. In fact impact of mg, if I consider, say for example, any element of length dl, and here the slope is theta. So what is this mass? Let this mass is dm. So that mass is lambda dl g. So what is the impact of weight here? This, if I consider this component, and if it has got the tendency of coming down, say, so the weight is along the incline. So this dmg is trying to pull it down the incline. So dmg is equal to what? So this force is trying to pull it down the incline. That is dmg sine theta. And suppose it is trying to come down, then the friction is acting on it. So here the normal direction of this element is dmg cos theta, and the friction here, let it be df. So df is equal to mu dm. So if it is coming down, the friction will act in the upward direction, and if it is coming up, the friction will act in the downward direction, but the magnitude will remain same, that is mu dm. So that is going to be mu dm, and dm is what? Lambda. So I can say lambda g, mu lambda g dl cos theta. So interesting point is what is the magnitude of the total friction force on this chain, is integration of this one, and what is the magnitude of the total friction force, total weight component down the incline. So this one, that comes out to be lambda g dl sine theta. Interestingly, the dl sine theta is only the vertical component of this element dy, and dl cos theta is only the horizontal component of this one. So this, the weight component down the incline is effectively coming out to be lambda g dx, and the friction force on this coming out to be mu lambda g dl cos theta. So mu lambda g dx. So what is the net frictional force that is acting? If I take the sum of the magnitude of this net frictional force means here I mean the sum of the magnitude of the frictional force that is acting on the whole chain. So that is going to be the integration of this one. So in this case I am getting 0 to 2a. So here I am getting it mu lambda g. So interestingly you can see here the effective friction force on the whole chain is only dependent on the horizontal component of the total length. So that is going to be 2a. So this is going to be mu lambda g 2a, and the total component of weight that is trying to move the chain down the incline for the whole is going to be only dependent on the vertical component, say. So that is going to be here lambda GA. Okay. Now if so you can see the friction force is mu lambda G2. I put the value of mu is 0.5. So effectively 0.25, mu is given to us 0.25. Mu is given in the question 0.25. So it comes out to be lambda GA by 2, and this comes out to be lambda G. Obviously this is greater. So if no other force is acting, the chain will have the tendency to come down. And if the force exceeds the difference of these two forces, then it, in this direction, then it will have the tendency to come down, and then friction will come down the incline. So if no force is acting, it will have the tendency to come down. So friction will acting up the incline. And just to stop it, what force I will require? So what is the minimum amount of mass of B will be? And minimum will be required to stop the chain from coming down will be the difference of this force and this force. So that comes out to be lambda GA 1 minus 1 by 2. And that comes out to be lambda GA by 2. But when I increase this mass greater than this difference, then it will have the tendency to come down, and the friction will now down the incline. So friction will be opposing the motion. So if this mass exceeds this value, if this mass exceeds the difference of this value, then it will have the tendency to come up. And then if the exceeds this value, lambda GA, then it will have the tendency to come down, and then the friction will opposing it. So ultimately the maximum mass will be M maximum, M minimum into G will be equal to this. So M minimum will be lambda A by 2. But if it has tendency to come down, then M max will be there, and M max will be, and this will be addition, M max into G will be lambda GA 1 plus 1 by 2. So the answer will be lambda A. So my answer lies between lambda A by 2 to lambda A 3 by 2. So this is the range of mass in which we can lie. So the answer finally is M should be greater than lambda A by 2 and less than. Equality will also be holding there. 3 lambda A. So this will be the range in which M will be lie. So this was the first question of 11th topic. And the next question that we will discuss today will be that of the 12th topic. So this is the question 1. We have discussed the question 1, solution of question 1. Now we will move to another question. That will be the second question of the day. Okay. So for the second question of the day, we will be now moving to the next question, question 2. So solution of page 6, question 2 is now. So we are going to discuss now question 2 of the day. Question 2 was, we were given a convex lens of focal length 10 centimeter. And its lower part from O was cut and placed like this, and this distance was given to us 1 centimeter, and we were having on the original axis, this was treated as origin, this was x-axis, and this line was treated as y-axis, and on the original axis at distance of 15 centimeter, so at this distance was 15 centimeter, we were having placed as point object, say A, here placed. So in this case I am asking you, what are the position coordinates of the images? So first of all, let me think how many images will be formed here. So one image will be formed due to refraction from this part. Another image will be formed due to refraction from this part. And the third image will be formed from refraction by both the lenses. So in this case we can see we will have the three images. Why three images? Because the optical axis of this one, the optical center of this one will come here, O dash, O dash. So this part will have the optical center, not coinciding with the O, but one center above. Okay. And interestingly, for both the refraction, equivalent lens will have the focal length of 1 by f equal to 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. So amount of 1 by f1 and f2 is same. And the equivalent optical center of that lens will be mid of O and O dash. So somewhere here, say I can say O double dash. So O double dash will be at what height? Half of this 1 centimeter. That is half centimeter. So we will have the three lenses. First one of optical center O and focal length 10 centimeter. That is the original lens. Second will be the optical center O dash and focal length 10 centimeter. And third will be the lens of focal length half of these two. So that will be half of these two and 5 centimeter. 1 by f equal to 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2 we are getting. And its third lens focal length will be this. And its optical center will be O double dash. So that will be for plus half centimeter at y. So 0 comma optical center of this one. So first one is O only. O is 0 comma 0. So no problem. And the focal length is same 10 centimeter. Second one is focal length same 10 centimeter. And optical center is say O dash and O dash coming out to be 0 comma 1. So you can see we are having three lenses, and for both the lenses you same say 10 minus 10 minus 15. Minus 15 means what if I use this formula 1 by V minus 1 by U equal to 1 by F. So 1 by F I can put 10 here. So for first lens here U is minus 15 and we are calculating V, and V F is 10. So the first position I1 I am getting. For I1 I am getting. I1 I am getting. For 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 I1 we are getting. You can see here. For I1 what I am getting here. Each. For I1 I am getting what I am getting here is. Just a minute. Let me use the mobile to. So let us see. In few minutes power will be back. So no problem at all. So for I1 I am getting. I am putting here U is equal to minus 10. So I am getting 30 centimeter. क्या कर चाहिए? So the corresponding diagram I am showing here. In fact, there are this arrangement of lenses are behaving like the three lenses. One for refraction from upper part of the original lens, another for the refraction from the lower part of the moved lens, and third the refraction by both the lenses. So this system is actually behaving like three lenses. In fact, the two lenses the two parts have the same focal length, but the optical centers are different. For the optical center of this original part is O, same as initial, but the optical center of the moved part is O dash, which has come up by 1 centimeter, but there is no horizontal displacement. And for the refraction by both the lenses, it's important that when both the lenses are refracting, the focal length becomes half. Using the combination of lenses, 1 by f is 1 by f1 plus 1 by f2. So for this combination, when the refraction is taking place by both the lenses, the equivalent focal length is half. And at the same time, the optical center of that combination is the midway between these 2 points. So you can say at height 1 by 2 centimeter. So for corresponding to these three refractions, you can say there are three lenses with the two of same focal length, but third one of different focal length, 15 by 2. And I am naming it here for first upper lens. The focal length is 10 centimeter and optical center is 0, 0. For the lower length, the focal length is 10 centimeter and optical center is 0, 1 because it has moved up. And for the refraction by both the lens, the focal length is 5 centimeter. It has become half. 1 by f equal to 1 by f1 plus f2. and O double dash, the optical center has come up by distance half centimeter, so the optical center is 0, 1 by 2. So in 3 cases we can calculate easily the V by the formula 1 by V minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F, and U is same for all the cases, minus 1 by U is equal to 1 by F. So in all 3 cases U is same, that is what, minus 15, and V in the 2 cases 1 and 2 is same, the focal length is 17, so V is same. So in these 2 cases I am getting V. In first case and second case I am getting V as solving 30 centimeter. So in the first case, since the object is lying on the optical axis, image is also lying on the optical axis at 30 centimeter. So the image point becomes 30, 0. For the lower part, the image point comes out to be like this, because these rays when refracted come here. Okay. Because the object is 1 centimeter below the optical axis, and V is plus 30 and U is minus 15. So applying the formula of magnification, it comes up 2 centimeter above the optical axis, and optical axis is already up by 1 centimeter. So effectively the height of I2 comes out to be 3 centimeters. So the image point is 30, 3. Is that clear? The image point is 30, 3. And in the last case, that is refraction by both the lenses, the U is 15, minus 15, and F is 15 by 2. I'm placing it and getting V equal to plus, so F is 10 and U is minus 15. So solving this case, I am getting V is equal to 15 by 2. 15 by 2 plus 15 by 2, and here the V is 15 by 2 and U is 15. So applying magnification formula, the image is at height 1 by 4 centimeter. In fact, object is 1 by 2 centimeter below the optical axis of this combination. So image is at height 1 by 4 centimeter from the optical axis of this combination. So effectively, my coordinates of the image point is coming out to be 15 by 2, 3 by 2. So I hope this is clear. So finally, this is the answer of this question. Okay. So I1 is this, I2 is this, I3 is this. So this was for solution of day 6, and now I am moving to the problem of day 7. So now it's time for problem of day 7. So moving to the problem of day 7. I hope it's clear to everyone. So just let me take the diagram and so moving to FCCR day 7 problems. FCCR day 7 problem. So question 1, I am talking about first. Question 1. In fact, this question was just came to my notice 2 or 3 days back, but I liked this question very much, so I thought of using it with you people. The coil attached with the battery has the EMF V, and this coil has self-inductance L1, resistance R1. This coil has self-inductance L1 and resistance R1. Here is the switch, and parallel to this another coil is placed here. And this coil has self-inductance L2, resistance R2. Okay. Now when I am closing the switch, ultimately I find that after closing the switch, it is found that the total charge flowing through second coil is Q0. After closing the switch, it is found that the total charge flowing through second coil is Q0. After closing the switch, it is found that the total charge flowing through the second coil is Q0. In fact, both the coils are placed parallel. The total charge flowing through the second coil is Q0. So what is the mutual inductance between them? Question is, what is M? What is the mutual inductance between them? So the question is, what is M between them? after closing the switch, it is found that the total charge flowing through the second coil is Q naught. So what is the mutual inductance between them? So the question is, what is the mutual inductance between the two coils? So there is a coil 1, coil 2, and I have to calculate the mutual inductance between the coils. Okay. And I know the total charge flowing through the second coil is Q naught after closing the switch here. Okay. So what is the mutual inductance between them? This is my question. Question 1 of day 7. And then I am moving for second question. The second question is, so the time for second question. Now moving for the second question. Second question, I am trying to bring a little bit of variation in my questions. So what I am doing here, here is a sphere, hollow sphere is say. In fact, of the thickness of the material is T, and the mean radius is R. So what I am taking here, T is 2 less than R. That is given to me. Okay. And the breaking stress of this material, in fact, you may assuming it as it composed of some metal with a breaking stress. Breaking stress of the material of the hollow sphere is say S. S is the breaking stress of the material of the hollow sphere. So breaking stress S is the breaking stress of the material of the hollow sphere, and outside pressure is say P naught. And initially the gas is contained inside at the pressure P. Okay. And now gradually the temperature everywhere is 0. Now gradually we are increasing the temperature. We are ignoring the thermal expansion. We are increasing the temperature. So on increasing the temperature, initial temperature is say P naught. Now we are increasing the temperature. After what temperature change? After what temperature change? Ignore the thermal expansion of the metal of sphere. The breaking stress is given to us. After what temperature change? After what temperature change? The sphere will break. After what temperature change? The sphere will break. That is the question. So the question is, after what temperature change the sphere will break? So in fact, it's not a new problem as such. It's a well-known problem. Those who are doing the elasticity problem might be knowing it. But anyway, we have to take all type of problems, so I am taking this also. So this is question 2 of the day. After what temperature change the sphere will be breaking? And I am ignoring the thermal expansion of the hollow sphere. And thickness of the material is given T. That is 2 less than R. You can take that. And this is sphere. And inside ideal gas, you may assume the gas to be ideal. So that is the question 2 of the day 7. And the time to declare the reward. In fact, the reward for the previous day is again won by Rishi Singla on MBN School Sector 17, as he usually does. Whenever I put up the problem, within half an hour he get both the answers correct mostly, and get the reward obviously. And apart from the reward, one thing that I told you again and again, apart from the reward, I am more focused towards the concept and the fun that you get in solving the problem. So spread the message. In fact, I will be presenting the problem up to 24th, and after 24th for 3 days will be remaining for advance. So you will be concentrating on that only. But in any way, so this will continue till 24th, that is the day after tomorrow. And I hope you will be enjoying it. So thank you so much. Please like and share the video and subscribe the YouTube channel. That is my request again and again. And I will be coming up with the similar ideas and similar problems after that also. But obviously frequency won't be daily. It will convert to the weekly problems. But anyway, the problem will be equally enjoyable as they are now. So that's it. In fact, I have put up 2 problems there. One problem I like very much. And this problem also I like, but this is a popular problem. So thank you very much. See you tomorrow.